Be the change you want to see. Make a difference by giving your money a purpose, a mission to do good. Welcome to Money with Mission, where we talk to individuals, businesses, and organizations who are taking the lead and whose actions are impacting the well-being of their communities and the world at large.
Welcome back to Money with Mission. Today, I have Kine Corder. Kine is the CEO of Presidential Lifestyle. She's a national certified counselor, international speaker, and the #1 clinical hypnotherapist specializing in stress management. You may have seen her on Oprah or ABC's Extreme Makeover. She's also a best-selling author and international speaker, sharing the stage with the likes of Les Brown and Damon John. Studies have shown that money is the #1 cause of stress, and we know that stress is the cause of many major and minor illnesses. This is why Kine created a financial therapy program that combines hypnosis, talk therapy, and money counseling to help high achievers create a life of meaning. Welcome, Kine. Thank you so much for joining me.
You are welcome. Thank you for having me. I am so looking forward to our conversation.
Me too. And everybody, for full transparency, I am a student of Kine's. I'm in her prosperity club and I love it. It's really, really good. So it's not an advertisement, kind of sort it is. But anyway.
I know, but you can't help it, right? You're like, people should know about this.
Know about it for sure, for sure. So let's talk a little bit. How did you get into hypnotherapy? We'll start there.
Yeah. So I was a financial advisor with Morgan Stanley, and I found that people needed help with more than just numbers and stock pick. And they would come to my office, and a lot of times if they were couples, they would argue over money. And I really didn't feel equipped to help them. So I went back to school, got my master's in clinical mental health counseling, because I felt like I wasn't dealing with a money problem. I was dealing with mental health or emotional health problems. That was what was happening in my office. And so I wanted that education so that I could help people. After finishing, at the end of my master's program, my very last class was trauma. And I put the trauma class last because I thought I wasn't going to like it, except I loved it. And my teacher, my professor, was a hypnotherapist. So she took us through a hypnotherapy session, like a fake hypnotherapy session. And even though it was a fake hypnotherapy session, I actually felt a shift happened in my life that day. And I was like, whoa, something is different. I don't know exactly what it is. That wasn't even my story I was telling. I want to know more about this hypnotherapy thing. So I went and got more information on hypnotherapy. She introduced me to the hypnotherapist that taught her. I took that class and I went into my internship using hypnotherapy in the hospital, and people who had returned, like come to the hospital many times over their lifetime. And you know, the psychiatric hospital, most of those people they're lifers. They come back and they come back and they come back. There were people who had been there, 60-year-old men who said, I really feel like this is the last time I will be coming back to this hospital. I feel different after working with you. And they had seen hundreds of therapists by the time they got to me. But when I saw that impact in my internship, now I had the pleasure of never doing therapy without hypnosis. And because of that, I won't do therapy without hypnotherapy. I don't see why I would, because it pushes the healing forward so quickly that it's miraculous. And to see that kind of change just warms your heart. And so once I got into opening my own practice, I was like, you know what? I'm going to mix my background in finance with this newfound hypnotherapy and pull them together. And that's how I kind of coined or crowned myself the clinical financial hypnotherapist.
I like it. I'm going to go back because I don't know how many people would have gotten from, I'm a financial advisor, and having people coming in and having arguments to a mental health thing. Because I think, I don't know that most financial advisors would go that way. You know what I mean? They try to push and make you understand what you need to understand about your money right here in front of me so you can do your thing, as opposed to getting deeper into that whole thing. Have you been that way for a long time? Is that how you are? Does that make sense? Or
yes.
That sensing thing?
So there's two things that I want to say to that. So first is there's what I call your prosperity birthright. And my prosperity birthright is a wise one. And I'm going to explain that in just a second.
Okay.
And that was what was coming out in that moment. Now, before I talk about that, what I will say is all the way back in my childhood, I was a career entrepreneur. So most of my life I've owned a business.
Okay.
And what was common in each one of those businesses was me serving and teaching. And so as a financial advisor, that's sort of what you teach. You're teaching people, here's how you invest your money. But while I was there, I was leaning back on things that I had gone through in my life, which was I've been in self-help since I was 15 years old. Like I went to my first self-help seminar at 15 years old, and Les Brown was the speaker.
Wow.
And because of that, I knew that there were things that were happening in that room that were possible to change with a little bit more expertise that I didn't have. I was
Okay.
like, I know there's something here. And so I started studying and I said, what is happening in this room? So I started studying behavioral finance, financial therapy, and that started leading me down the rabbit hole, I guess you can say. And I even found that they weren't even doing enough. I was like, they're only scratching the surface. There's something else here. So then I said, well, if I'm going to study financial therapy, let me just look into therapy. And that's when I found that, oh, this is like programming. Like we are we are traumatized or hurt in the beginning of our lives, and we come up with a program and an idea of how to move through the world, and then we hold on to that program, and then we marry somebody who has a different program, and we fight them because we're like, no, I am not changing my program. In fact, not only am I not changing my program, but I demand that you get on the same program with me, instead of us clearing our old past stuff and saying, what is the new program? What is the most loving program? And
Yeah.
so to tie that back around to the wise one, so all while the arguing is going on or the confusion is going on in my office, the wise one in me is burning to help these people. It's like, I'm trying. And so in 2012, I wrote a book called The Art of Starting Over, because I watched a lot of my clients in 2008 and 2009 lose so much during that financial crisis.
Yeah.
And I knew that it wasn't just money that they lost. For some people, it was dignity. It was, their identity. It was so many other things besides those material things that they lost. And so my book, The Art of Starting Over, really wasn't about the money as much as it was about, now, what will I do to change my mind so that this will not happen to me again? But even if it does, I'll be able to snap out of it faster, because what's happening in the world is still going to happen. But we've got to change what happens inside of us if we want to experience it differently.
Yes.
And that's what the book ended up being about. And that was my prosperity birthright coming out finally, that I had been suppressing all my life, because that's what we do. We have this thing that we're good at, that we know we're good at. It just comes naturally to us, but we ignore it and we go do something else. So my prosperity birthright is a wise one. There are three others: the leader, the reaper, and the showman. So the wise one is that person that that everybody goes to for advice. And as a kid, you probably said they were an old soul. They're wiser than their years or something like that. That's how they were described. The leader is that person that if they get up to go to the bathroom, people follow them. Like no matter what they're doing, they somehow have people following them. If they wake up today and they say they're going to throw a party, by the end of the day, they'll have 100 people at their house, because they are a leader and people just like being around them.
Okay.
And then there is the reaper, is that person that everything they touch turns to gold. It doesn't even have to be great. So the person who created the pet rock and got rich off of that, that was a reaper.
Yeah. I remember that.
It's like, what? The chia pet? Really?
Yeah. Yep. Wow.
And then
Okay.
there was the last one is the showman. And the showman is that entertainer. And we all know them because they're all in our face. The Michael Jacksons of the world, even the Colin Kaepernick. He's a really good example of a showman. We want to watch him play football, but then he decided he wanted to take a knee and he wanted to become a leader and he wanted people to follow him. He was trying to change his prosperity birthright,
Mm,
but people didn't want that from him. They didn't want him to become a leader. Even though he was right in what he was saying, he wasn't the person that was supposed to bring that through. So if he could have partnered with a leader, then that movement would have went further faster. Now we still got the movement going, but it would have went further faster if he would have partnered with a leader rather than trying to become a leader himself.
that's very interesting. And I have so many places I want to go. So you have your prosperity birthright. You are born this way. Can you change? Or is this is if you're a wise one, you're a wise one. If you're a leader, you're a leader. How does it seem to
Most of
go?
the time it stays the same. However, there are times I usually see when people do spiritual work, their prosperity birthright can shift. If they're not doing any work, then they're probably going to keep that same prosperity birthright. It really is no reason to change your prosperity birthright until you have first fulfilled it.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
if you fulfilled that prosperity birthright, it's likely that then you can go and change. Like I know people who were leaders, they fulfilled their leadership position and then they did end up switching to that wise one because they learned so much in being a leader that they were able to become a wise one later. But you do need to fulfill your prosperity birthright before you can shift, unless you do a lot of spiritual work, then that then shifts you into another prosperity birthright.
Okay. So I've been thinking, okay, I'm just like, so many things are in my head. Like I have two daughters. One is definitely a wise one and one is definitely a showman. I'm not
Mm.
100% sure which one I am, but I'm kind of sort of, I don't know. But anyway, let's define prosperity. You keep using the word. And I was like, I think that means something different to everybody. What do you think? What's your
Absolutely.
definition of prosperity?
So that is what we say on my podcast. Prosperity means different things to different people. But what I find is that we all have 5 areas that we want to be prosperous in. And that is in our wealth, monetary wealth, health, adventure, love, and legacy. So for me, the word prosperity for me is around autonomy. Like I've got to have freedom in my life. I've got to tell myself what I'm doing. Nobody can tell me what to do.
Mhm.
I need that autonomy. Generosity. I have to be able to be generous. If I'm not generous, I do not feel prosperous. Also, creativity. My life has to have a certain amount of creativity, which allows me to just feel good about myself and my life. Well, health is paramount. A lot of people think wealth is my favorite or money is my favorite conversation. It's actually health. I can
Yeah.
talk about health all day long because excellent health is what I aspire to more than anything. If I lose all my money, I still want to be in excellent health. And
Mhm.
so, and then a certain amount of fun. Now, I'm probably not the person that's going to have fun every day, all day. Like I would get bored with that amount of fun, which sounds ridiculous, but it would because I am a wise one and like serving and pouring into people. I could sit down and talk with somebody for 4 hours if I know it's going to make a difference in their life. And that would be fun to me rather
I
than
was gonna
going to
say,
the amusement park for
yeah,
4 hours,
yeah. I was gonna say that sounds like it's fun to you though. So
Mhm.
that's your fun. Um,
Exactly.
okay, prosperity. You said 5 different areas:
Hmm.
wealth, health, adventure,
Adventure, love.
legacy, love, and legacy.
Yep.
Okay, okay,
Yeah. And where I see that people neglect the most is going to be in legacy. Even though health is high, people neglect their health so much. And we're going to get to that subject before we're done.
yeah.
Um, but legacy is where people forget that you have a reputation. And when you leave this world, you're going to leave or not leave that reputation. For some people, it's important to be known when they leave this world, even if it's just by their grandchildren.
Yeah.
But if you don't do anything, if you're not taking the time to spend time with your grandchildren, tell them the story so they, pour into them, then you're not going to be known when you leave this, and you're not going to have the reputation you want to have. So a lot of times I ask people, how do you want to show up in the world? Because how you want to show up in the world is going to be that everyday thing you do or don't do.
Mhm.
And that's how you're going to show up in the world, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. That's the
Mm-hmm.
legacy that you leave. How you showed up is the legacy that you leave. So I'm hearing prosperity is abundance. It's abundance in these 5 different categories. Is that correct? Am I getting there?
Yeah. And and
Okay.
and
Okay.
when you say abundance, people are probably going to hear that meaning like it has to be a lot, right?
Of
You have to have
over the
a
top.
lot
Yeah.
of money. Yeah, exactly. So it is abundance, and what abundance means to you. It is the opposite of lack, really. And the
Okay.
word that's the
Yes.
opposite of lack is abundance. So I just want to make that clear to the listeners that when we say abundance, we're not saying necessarily that this is $1 billion or this is whatever abundance would mean to you, but most importantly, you're not in lack. It's nothing missing. There are no limits to what you can have. Even if you decide you just want to be a millionaire, you don't want to be a billionaire, that's okay. But there's still no limits. Just know that if you wanted to be a billionaire, you could absolutely could be if you wanted to.
Yes. Yes. Okay. You talked about programming, and you talked about
Mm.
we all have our own program and our partners have a program, and we come together and we try. Do we know we have a program, or are we just walking around doing our thing and we have to do some personal development to actually know there's a program? Does that make sense? Just like,
Absolutely.
because we're just, go
Mhm.
ahead.
We do not know we're programmed. And most people don't ever find out unless they listen to your podcast, listen to my podcast, unless they're getting out there and searching, or serendipity. They just happen to fall into it and find out they don't know they're programmed. In
Yeah.
fact, they don't know it so much that they try to pass it down to their children. And it is so painful when you try to pass down a program that is not working for you to your children. And let me tell you why, because they see it's not working. They see that it's not working. You just don't see it yet. And so they're looking at you and they're like, wait a minute, you want to pass that down to me? But you don't even look like you're enjoying that. So why would I want some of that? You got go to school, get a good job, whatever, get some bills. And it's like, I'm good. I'm good. I don't want
No.
none of that. I
Oh
don't want none of
my.
that.
My goodness. That is definitely a program. And you were had that one. I have that one. Working on it with Kine, trying to getting there, getting there. But to know that it's not you is the biggest thing to know. That is
Yeah,
not me. I can do
exactly.
something with that.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up because that is something I tell people all the time. It's not your fault, but you are responsible for what you do with it, right?
Yes,
Your
yes.
program is not your fault. You were programmed, you didn't choose it. It was given to you, likely by society, your parents, grandparents, the community you grew up in, whatever it was passed down to you. Now, you don't have to keep it though. Now that you know your program, you do not have to keep it. You can go ahead and trade it in for a new program, but you do have to find out what that program is. And so, one of the first steps that we teach people is really identifying what are the stories you're telling yourself. A couple of the stories that I used to tell myself, remember I said generosity was part of my idea of prosperity. So I used to think that it was better to give than to receive. I really truly plugged into that. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't the type of person that was going to give you the shirt off my back, but I would definitely buy a cheaper shirt so both of us can have one.
Okay. All right.
I'm like, oh wait, I could get 2 shirts for $20 or one shirt for $20. Let me buy the 2 shirts for 20 and make sure Felicia has one too, because
Gotcha.
we are both gonna have a shirt. So that was my generosity, but I would do that sometimes to my detriment because you might have a shirt already. You just don't like the shirt you have on. And so you're like, I want a new one. And I'm like, I get it. Let me help you out,
Yeah.
instead of seeing, wait a minute, let this woman wear this old shirt. She will be fine. She's not going to die with this old shirt on. Instead, I want to make sure you feel good because I know what it feels like to feel good. And because
Yeah.
all my life, I've been going to self-help since I was 15 years old. I know what it's like to feel good. And all I want in my life is for all the people around me to feel good. But I was going about it the wrong way. My
Mm-hmm.
thought was I was going about it by solving their problems rather than giving them the tools to do it themselves.
Got it.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's big. That's key. And so many of us with our children, even give our children everything as opposed to teach them how to do
Yes.
for themselves. And yeah, that's
Mm.
passing down that programming, what you said exact.
Yep.
Oh yeah, we have
One
to go ahead.
one of the worst things that you can tell your children is because I said so.
Hmm.
Like, really have a conversation with them around that. And let me tell you why. Because from 0 to 12, that is about how long you have to pour some really good, responsible ideas into their head. If you do not explain to them why you're asking them to look both ways when they cross the street, I'm giving that as a silly example.
Yeah.
If you just say, because I told you so, then they're going to do it, but they're not going to know the reasoning behind that. So when it comes time to make a real decision, not like crossing the street, they're not going to know how. So either they're going to say, let me go back to mommy or daddy and ask how to make this decision. Now, that's only between 0 and 12. After that, the voice that they hear inside their head is yours before 12. After 12, the voice that they hear inside their head is their friends. They don't hear their own voice because you never taught them how to hear their own voice. They hear your voice. And then they're going to trade that voice in for another outside voice and say, who can tell me how to do this? I don't want to listen to mommy and daddy anymore because I'm grown up. Because believe it or not, 12 or 14 is when our brain tells us we're off on our own. And so 12 or 14, right around in that age group, is when they start listening to their friends. And what you say is no longer golden, is no longer true. In fact, it is actually untrue because now they see you were living the program, the same program you're trying to pass down to them. And they say, I don't trust you because you told me go to school, get a good job. I see you doing that and you look miserable. And that can't be the answer, even though you keep trying to tell me it's the answer. So I'm going to turn to my friends who don't have the answer either, but at least it's not what you're saying.
That's so interesting. I remember telling my girls, don't, if it doesn't make sense to you, it doesn't make sense. Ask a lot of questions. You can question anybody, even me, if I say something to you that doesn't make sense. At the time, I thought, like, do I really want this? But yes, I really did. We had to have you had to have a conversation around it.
You
Is it
really do.
easier? It is. It's not easier. You have to have a logical conversation as opposed to just because I told you so, which makes your life easier, but not
Yep.
theirs in the future. And
Exactly.
that's what we got to do. We got to work to make our children's lives easier. It's
And it
so
will
so
actually make
interesting.
your life easier too.
And
Otherwise, at 18, 19 years old, they are going to be terrors to live with. But if you have taught them how to make decisions, then they'll make those decisions or they'll come back and ask you
have a
and have a
conversation.
conversation because
Exactly.
they can trust you.
Yep, yep. And that's what I did learn, that my kids have conversations with me, even long after the thing is done. They come back and say, this is what I did, and this is the mistake I made, and this is and I was scared to tell you. And it's like, oh honey, it's good. You're good. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about hypnotherapy and hypnotists. I
Oh,
want to
yes.
make sure everybody understands the difference there. Money with Mission is a real estate and business investment company that specializes in finding projects that have the potential to give you a great return on your investment dollar and make an impact in the communities where we invest. Make a difference in your life and the lives of others. Go to moneywithmission.com to learn more. Okay, welcome back, everybody. I've got Kine Corder, the #1 clinical hypnotherapist specializing in stress management. And let's explain the hypnotherapy and what's the difference between that and those shows we watch where a hypnotist is on the stage and they make you quack like a duck or bark like a dog or whatever. Because I know a lot of people are saying, I'm not doing that hypnotherapy. They think it's evil. They think something bad's about to happen. Explain what hypnotherapy is.
Yeah. So I'm going to try to wrap it up in a couple minutes. So first, let's take hypnotists. A hypnotist's job is entertainment. That is what they're there for. Now, they do have a special power they could use for healing, but that's not their job right now. They are a showman, like we talked about before.
Okay. Uh-huh.
They are a showman. And so they're using this modality to show and have fun. Now, the type of person that is going to go on stage and be used by a hypnotist is a specific type of person, and they are easily suggestible. And so if the hypnotist is doing, you don't know this, but they're doing a test out in the audience. They are scanning the audience. They're asking you to do certain things, and they're watching and they're looking and they're seeing who is most suggestible.
Okay.
And when they find out who's most suggestible, they're going to pull those people up onto the stage. And then they're going to ask them to do something. They are going to have them go into that deep sleep and then ask them to do something silly for fun. That is real. That does happen, but that is not hypnotherapy. And it is especially not clinical hypnotherapy. So I am a therapist, trained and certified. And so the work that I am doing is specifically for healing.
Okay.
And it is not at all to make you quack like a chicken. It really, it really is to help you gain control over yourself. I don't want any control over you. I don't have any control over you. And in the way that we do hypnotherapy, what's going to happen is that you're going to go to the same place that you go every single night when you go to sleep. Right before you fall asleep, sometimes it's just a second, other times it might be a minute, where you're in this suggestible state where you can kind of hear what's going on around you, but it just is easier for you to just fall asleep. Maybe somebody has called your name and you were just about to fall asleep and you're like, yeah, like they jarred you out of that sleep. Well, that space that you were in enough to hear your name being called, that's hypnosis. That's where your brain waves slow down just enough for you to clear out the old and actually imprint new things. Now, if you wanted to imprint new, healthier thoughts, like this is the way I would like my eating habits to be, or I would rather change this habit about myself, this is where you would do that. That's why back I think it was like in the 80s, there were like these tapes that you could buy that you could listen to on your way to sleep. That was what that would do in the same thing. That technically was tapping into the time that you're going to be in hypnosis, which hypnosis is a word that means sleep. Okay. So when you're going to be in hypnosis, that they can make suggestions. And then when you awaken, your subconscious brain has been tuned to these suggestions.
Okay.
Now, when we do hypnotherapy, you're going to tell me how you want to feel. And that is what I am going to suggest to you. I'm not going to come up with how you want to feel. You tell me how you want to feel. And during our session together, what I'll have you do is I'll count you down using a technique we call an induction. I will introduce you to that space right before you fall asleep that you've gone to 1,000 times before. I'm going to introduce you there. As we introduce you to that space, I'm going to ask you to let go of the things that are no longer serving you. And just that suggestion going into your brain at that particular time, when the brain waves are slow enough for it to release those old programs, it will do that. Now, sometimes it takes more than once. Sometimes it does only take one session. And then after I ask you to release it, I don't want to leave you with nothing there. So I'm going to imprint or suggest, or what we say in our program, help you embrace a new program, which is maybe you say, healthier, wealthier, whatever it is that you want to become. We will suggest those things. Calmer, peaceful, whatever. You tell me what you want, and then I will suggest that into your brain. And believe it or not, in just a few sessions, people are different than they were before they started.
I agree. It's true. I've done it, and so we do a group hypnotherapy in the Prosperity Club. Can you choose not to be hypnotized? Like, say we're in Prosperity Club and I'm just not feeling it today, and you start your thing. Can I just decide, say, I'm not doing this today? Or can you force me into hypnosis?
No, I cannot force you into hypnosis. However, if you are in the room, because of the way the brain works, if you are at all suggestible, which 75% of the world is. So 50% of the world is the type that could go up on that stage and be directed by a hypnotist. And those people are highly suggestible. 50% of the world is highly suggestible.
That's a lot.
I'm sorry, 25. I'm sorry, I meant to say 25. 25% of the world is highly suggestible.
That's still a lot.
50% of the world is suggestible.
Okay.
Like kind of, yes, they will be. 25% of the world is low on the suggestibility scale. Even those people can be hypnotized. They just won't go as deep, they won't feel as much, and they will take longer to adjust.
Okay.
And a lot of times that is women that fall into that 25%.
Okay. And
Yeah.
it's, I mean, we have free will. You can do it or not do it, right? You can
Yeah.
allow yourself to, but you were starting to say that if you're in the room, even if you're one of those less suggestible people, or is it if you're in that 50% of suggestible,
Yeah.
you'll get something.
If you're 25%, if you're like highly suggestible, you're probably not even going to stop yourself. You will find yourself in hypnosis
Okay.
because that is how your brain works. And your brain knows what it needs, first of all. And so if you are thirsty and you tell yourself, I'm not going to drink because I don't know where that water came from. But you get more and more thirsty and more thirsty, and there's water there, you can be like, well, I'll just take a sip.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah,
Yes.
and that's kind of
Yeah.
how it will be. Your brain knows what it needs, and so it's going to open up. So 25% of those people are not going to be able to fight the healing as much. So even fighting it, they still will feel a little bit of healing. The
Okay.
50% of people, let's say the 50% that fall into just suggestible, if they decided to fight it, they're going to feel a little something, but that will only happen if they keep coming back and even saying no. If you are saying no, then there's a certain amount of block in what we call your critical brain in the way. And your critical brain is not going to let the suggestions drop down far enough into your subconscious brain to make lasting change. And so that block is going to keep you from that lasting change. So you could decide, no, I don't want to be hypnotized and not go. Now, of course, you shouldn't be around healing if you don't want to heal,
Right.
because I'm not a religious person, but I do know the Bible says bad company corrupts good character. Well, it just so happens that good company could do the same thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Gotcha. Yep.
You ever been around
Yep.
somebody who eats super healthy? I know I've always eaten healthy, right? So let me tell you a little trick, people. This is just a golden nugget that you just not have nothing to do with this podcast, but this is so good. You're gonna love. I'm telling you this. So if you want to eat healthy, what you do if you go out with a group of people is you order first, and you order the healthy thing first. If you wait to last, it is going to shift you. You are not going to order the healthy thing because you're going to be like, oh, shoot, they got the burger. Oh, they got the pizza. Oh, they got the right. But if you order first, then you're going to calibrate the table, and people are going to be like, oh, maybe I should get that other thing. Now somebody at the table is still they are not going to care because they like eating this stuff. But know that there's this, group effect where people are like, they start to think, they second guess themselves.
Yeah.
Well, if you order first, not wait, because what we think we want to do when we are the ones who are going to order the healthy thing, we're like, well, let me just order last. I'm so embarrassed. I don't want to order this thing. We try to like whisper it to the
so funny.
Yeah,
that's good. That's really good. I'm gonna have to do that. I'm gonna have to do that.
Yeah.
All right.
And I say try it out and just see. Of course, you're gonna get somebody at that table who is a diehard glutton, and they're not gonna change their order, but you will see the shift.
Yeah.
You will see the shift.
I've noticed it actually with alcohol. If somebody doesn't order a drink, then less people order drinks.
Yes, so true. Yeah.
Then I decide, no, I'm having a drink. Yeah, I'll get one. I'll just have wine, not a margarita. I'll just get wine this time.
Right, exactly. Yep.
It does change me a little bit, I have to admit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. That does. Okay, on your site, you talk about money personalities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Talk about that a little bit. How is that part of our programming? Is that what is? And then tell us what they are.
Yeah, it is part of our programming. So most people fall. The studies that I've done, there are 7 different money personalities, and I call them the 7 money mentality types. Okay. And it's the spender, the saver, the blamer, the enthusiast, the hero, the artist, and the president. And the president is the ideal money mentality. And we should all be working towards becoming a president. Now, we named it the president because the name of our company is Presidential Lifestyle. So that's sort of like our moniker, our mascot. And so you want to become the president. And why we say the president is because the president has harmony over every area of the money cycle. Now, I define the money cycle as earn, grow, protect, gift, and enjoy your money. So earn, grow, protect, gift, and enjoy your money. Each one of those other money mentality types has a strength and a challenge when it comes to their money mentality. But the president has harmony in all the areas. And
Mm,
so they don't have a challenge in any of the areas. The only challenge that a president might have is finding people to share all of their knowledge with, because they may think that people don't want to hear it.
that's really interesting. Um, okay, we're going to tell you how you can learn which personality is yours.
Yeah.
There's actually a quiz for that. And I'm going to go back to the hypnotherapist because I thought of something back then in comparing it to a doctor. Now, remember
Mm.
a medical doctor, because Kane talked about the fact that she did an internship. Medical doctors do internships and residencies. And when you go to your medical doctor, you may question them, but you trust them and you trust they're not going to do something to hurt you. And so
Mhm.
if you think about a hypnotherapist, you want to know what their training is. You don't want to go to somebody who's had no training. And I guess we'll talk about what the training is that you think what your hypnotherapist should be trained, or how they should be trained, let's put it that way. But
Mhm.
once you know that they have that integrity, they went to that training, you you can trust them like you would trust your doctor. That's how I'm looking at this.
Mhm.
Do you think that's a fair way to look at that?
I think it is a fair way to look at it. And one of the things I'll add is that you also want a partnership with your doctor. So in the old days, like with my grandmother, it used to be Dr. So and so said this, and that's just it. And I'm like, yes, grandma, that is true. But Dr. So and so doesn't know this thing that's happening at home. So we need to make sure we're in a partnership with doctor. So she understands that that might be in interaction with this, because they don't know that. Or they send that prescription to Walgreens and you got this other prescription to CVS and they're not talking to each other. So you're in partnership. Yes, doctor said take that, but doctor doesn't know this is going on over here. So can we, integrate a little bit more? And so I bring that up to say this: you are supposed to get to know your body, your brain so well that if Dr. So and so says, take this, then you can say, I understand that that usually works for people. But for me, let me tell you about this thing that I have that I didn't tell you, that, this might change. And then you can share that information with them. And then they say, okay, yes. So I bring that up to say that because one thing that I find is that people do want to put the onus in the doctor's hands and not have
Yes.
any responsibility themselves. But it is up to you to heal yourself. Remember, I said it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. And so the doctor is in partnership with you. But if you're holding back, or if there's something the doctor doesn't know, and sometimes there's something the doctor doesn't know, not just about you, but maybe a new technology, you can bring it up, not to be a know it all, but to say, would this be something that could help me? And if they say, no, that's not right for you, then okay, thank you. And they can explain it. Just like you told your girls, if something doesn't make sense to you, question it, ask a question. Then
Yep.
you can get an informed answer back so that you'll know.
That was Felicia Fro speaking every day of my medical practice. And my biggest frustration was people coming in and now I'm there. I'm the know-it-all of everything they do. And just what you just said is, I don't know your life. I don't walk in your shoes. I don't know everything about you. If I say something that makes no sense to you, you got to say something to me.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
it's my that honestly is my biggest frustration in medicine, is that put all your trust, all your everything. Don't think anymore once you go in the doctor's office. And there are some really smart people that go to the doctor and stop thinking when they walk in the door. It's
Yep.
just, you can't do it. You've got to be a partnership with your healthcare provider. It is definitely a partnership for you to get better, for you
Yeah.
to heal. You have to do your part. And part of your part is making sure your doctor understands you and your life and your
Yep.
body the way you know it.
And I would like to add too, because I know that not all doctors are like you and I, in the sense that they do think they are the authority and they don't want to be questioned and they get triggered when there's a question. And I would suggest that the doctor do some work themselves, because you are in partnership with your patient and you do know a lot, but you don't know them. and you've got to get to know them. And a lot of times we just don't even have, in the hour that I spend, the 2 hours. Nowadays, my hypnotherapy session is much different. I get to spend 3 days with you. So I do really get to know you. But for the most part, it's like an hour a week or something like that. We're just dripping into their lives. And we don't know a lot about them. And so we've got to get to know them, and we count on them sharing it with us. I know I went to a doctor once, a naturopath, and she told me right out the gate, it sounds like you think you know everything, and we might not be a good fit for each other. Wow. And I said to her, you're right, we might not be, but I'm curious enough to stay long enough to figure it out. Are you?
Nice. Nice. And back to that doctor who is the one that wants to tell you everything and not listen. If yes, they need work on themselves, but they're not necessarily going to get it. So you have to take it upon yourself to get a different doctor, because there are doctors there who are going to be partners with you. Yep. They are there. So don't be scared to get a new doctor. You've got to get another doctor if it's not working for you.
Such a good point.
We got to the health part kind of roundabout way, didn't we?
Yeah, we
did. You were speaking my language so much, because that has been my biggest frustration in medicine. And I was going to go with, and in your doctor's offices visits these days are 15 minutes. You don't have a lot of time.
Yep.
They don't have time to get to know you. You don't have time for them to even kind of. So you have to go in there ready. You have to be prepared. You speak their language as best you can. And that helps so much. I can help you with that too. We have to talk about that some too, Kine. That's my other life.
Yes. And I want to add to that too, because when it comes to health, a lot of times people put that as last on their list of, when they talk about their idea of prosperity. But I mean, think about it. You can work yourself to the bone if you want to, but how much fun will you have if you're at the beach in Hawaii or wherever and you are sick? Or you can barely go into the water because of whatever stress you have going on. I actually have a true story of a friend of mine who stressed himself out so badly that by the time he went on vacation, true story, he had a heart attack on that beach in Hawaii, believe it or not. So it's real, it's happening. And you got to take the time to focus on your health. Health is part of your wealth. Yes. It really, truly is.
It is.
And 100%. I bring that up because I think that, going back to programming, society tells us money over everything else, right? Money. If you get money, all the other problems will be solved. And you and I believe the mission is first. And part of that mission, you got to take care of yourself if you're going to fulfill that mission, right? The airplane says, put on your mask first before assisting others. That includes your health.
Yep, 100%. And everything you just said is perfect. You have to make it a priority. It's you can't work all your life and then say, when I retire or when I quit, I'm going to get healthy. Because how many people know somebody who did that and died within 6 months of quitting their job? So health is important from day one all the way through day 120, or however many days you had, year 120. Day 1 through year 120 on this earth. It's important. It's very important.
It is.
Now, you give back in a lot of ways. I mean, your whole thing is about serving and being the wise one. That's a lot of giving back. But I also know that you give back financially. You have school. Tell me about what you're doing and tell me your philosophy of that too, because it's very interesting how you talk to me about your decisions to give and how you do that.
Yes. So, and part of our prosperity club and what we really teach is one of the pillars that you're going to need is your cause. And you got to know your cause. I got really clear on my cause. There are 2 that I give to. And outside of those, I just say no. And this is a conversation you and I have had in the prosperity club. And I don't feel bad when I say no Oprah tells a story about when she got wealthy and then people come and ask her, can you give to this and can you give to that? And she used to feel bad. And so she would say, yes, 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 yes. But then she realized, wait, how long am I going to do this? The money's going to run out eventually, right? So if you know your cause, then you can, with confidence, say, no. I tell a story where I play tennis, and as part of my tennis league, one of the girls was collecting money for Toys for Tots. Well, not only do I not celebrate Christmas, but I also have my own causes that I give to. So I said, no, I won't be, she gave me the piece of paper to donate. I said, no, thank you. I won't be, donating. And then everybody on the team is like, but we're all doing it. And I said, I get that, but I do have causes that I'm already committed to. So if you have a cause that you're already committed to, it's so much easier for you to say no, because one, every dollar you put somewhere else is not going to that cause that you believe in. And if you're trying to stop homelessness or domestic violence or, childhood cancer, whatever it is that you're putting your money towards, if you're putting your time, your energy, your money towards those things, and then somebody asks you for some time, some energy and money to go over here, it's taking away from your cause. So with confidence, you can say no, because you got to think about your mission, your cause, the thing that you really want to give back to is going to be suffering because you're over here fragmenting yourself. Yeah.
I love that. That was a light bulb for me, because I've been there's so many different causes. There's so many and they're all good.
Yeah.
And I think it took you saying that to me one time. It's like, oh, I'm giving plenty and I want to give more. So I have to stop giving to all these other things so I can do it. It makes so much sense. So much sense. Thank you. Thank you so much for that.
You're
okay,
welcome.
guys, Kine's got so much more to give you. She really does. So you've got to connect with her. All of her connections will be in the show notes. Do you want to go ahead and give people, just say one or two of how they can get with you?
Well, I always tell people, depending upon where they hang out, either Instagram or LinkedIn, hang out with me on Instagram and LinkedIn. I typically accept my LinkedIn requests. So if you want to hang out with me there, I'm a little bit more professional on LinkedIn than I am on Instagram. On Instagram, I'm a little bit more fun. That's where you see my adventure side come out. You also get to see the love side, because I might post about me and my honey. I might post about me and my grandson. And when my grandson gets on my Instagram, oh gosh, it is not professional. So I like to tell people to hang out with me there. Those are really easy ways. It's, no burden, no barrier to entry there for us to hang out, unless you just don't have social media. And then once you hang out with us there, then you can decide where you want to go. But I would also say, you already talked about the quiz, so put a link to the quiz in the show notes, but also allow people who are saying, oh my God, I got to join that Prosperity Club. Put a link to the sneak peek, because we have a sneak peek in the Prosperity Club where you can come hang out with us for 28 days. You'll get access to our library. You'll be able to take some recorded hypnotherapy sessions. You also get to come to one of our group hypnotherapy sessions, and you get a one-on-one conversation with one of my trained hypnotherapists. So I would say, depending upon where you are in your discovery or curiosity, then either go ahead and hang out with us on social media, go ahead and click the link to take the quiz, or just say, hey, I want the sneak peek, and you'll get everything.
You guys got to do it. Just do it. Thank you so much for being here with me. This was amazing. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. It
went so fast. I had so much fun, though.
It did go fast.
Yeah, so we got more to talk about. I got to come back if you'll have me.
Oh, okay, absolutely.
Yes.
You've been listening to Money with Mission. There are projects happening right now where you can make a great return while positively impacting the lives of others. To learn more about today's guest, or to download 7 steps to building resilient wealth for women, visit www.moneywithmission.com.
I hope you enjoyed the interview and are inspired to give your money a mission. Until next time, send your investment dollars into the world to bring you a financial return and improve the lives of others.